Hi everybody, I'm Julie. I'm an indie filmmaker, and if you want to know more about me, you can check out my links below. You're about to watch a really great review of Chris Rock's Selective Outrage, a comedy special that he did on Netflix, and I actually highly recommend it. Okay, stay tuned for the Julie show. Yeah, okay. Okay, so here's the thing, like, I don't really do, like, celebrity gossip, like, as far as my channel, yeah. So I'm gonna be saying a lot of positive things about Chris Rock, like, straight up. And the other thing I wanted to say, the reason why I felt compelled to do a review of Selective Outrage, like, in this video, I will be actually talking about sort of celebrity gossip, but I'll be talking about 3 people who I highly respect, like, totally, which is like Will Smith, Jada Pinkett Smith, and Chris Rock. I respect these people like so much. I think they're so bananas talented. I'd be lucky to work with any of them in any capacity whatsoever. So yeah, so I don't really want to do like super gossipy YouTube videos. But what happened was like a year ago. Okay, so I live in the San Francisco Bay Area where it's like, to me, it's like really, really, really classist is what I would say. And I'm basically like a hillbilly from small town Virginia. So it took me a while to realize, I don't know, why I sometimes encounter snootiness. Okay, so about a year ago, I had a roommate who went to UC Berkeley. UC Berkeley people can be kind of snooty, but the Bay Area people in general are kind of snooty. So that's just how the cookie crumbles. But anyway, a year ago I had a roommate. She was just kind of mean. I totally forgive her. She's in her 20s. She's kind of just a product of UC Berkeley. So like in her 30s, who knows? Who knows who she'll be a couple years from now, but being around her just made me feel like garbage. I totally forgive her. Like, it's all good. Like, she's a product of her environment, UC Berkeley. And what you gonna do? Okay, so, but around that time, like, I was living with her and I felt like garbage because, like, the daily meanness, the daily snootiness it's tough. And anyway, so I made, like, a video about the slap Will Smith. You can Google it, the Oscars, if you don't know. Anyway, I made a video about Will Smith a year ago, and then I think I did like 2 podcasts, and I was like hashtag team Will Smith, to be honest with you. But that's why I actually, for the sake of being kind and empathetic, I want to say nice things about Chris Rock, like straight up, because I highly respect Chris Rock. So Chris Rock did a special, Selective Outrage. Overall, it's like funny, you know? And like, I think Chris Rock is a comedic genius. I was born in 1982, so I'm like 40 years old. So I think all 3 of them are about 10 years older than me. So that is to say, I grew up watching all of them. And I think, like I said, they're all like really talented, really talented. Jada's a really good actress. Her recent show, she was on Gotham, that show Gotham. But she was on a show Gotham, and she was great on that show. She's very talented. Will Smith is The Pursuit of Happiness, like I Am Legend, like or even The Fresh Prince, the show, like he's just so bananas talented. And Chris Rock, like his stand-up specials are like legendary, right? So I grew up watching I grew up watching all these people who I highly respect. Okay. So, I think about a year ago, you know, the slap. So Chris Rock, you know, Selective Outrage, he does, you know, I thought it was funny, I was laughing, and then he finally addresses the slap, you know, and so basically, you know what happened. So a year ago, Chris Rock made a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith, who had short hair at the time, and he said, oh, you know, can't wait to see G.I. Jane, and sorry if I don't want to trigger anybody, but, you know, and then because of the joke, Will Smith slapped Chris Rock. I do want to say, like, everyone was collectively, as like a human race, we were all coming out of COVID. COVID was kind of tough for me, so, but also it turns out I'm in the wrong city. Anyway, whatever. So it turns out the reason why I've had a tough time in the Bay Area, this is not really where I'm supposed to be long term. Okay, so I've realized that on like a spiritual level. Okay, but anyway, I just think everyone was coming out of COVID. Everyone was feeling frustrated in general. So I think like I feel like the slap just surmised like how everyone was feeling about life in general. I don't know. So, okay. So the first thing I want to say is like, the first positive thing I want to say about Chris Rock is like, I really, really, really respect Chris Rock, and that, you know, social media is like a thing now, like TikTok or YouTube and that kind of thing. But when Jada and Will and Chris were coming up in the entertainment industry, like the internet wasn't like a thing quite yet. And I was in high school when the internet started to become a thing. So what I want to say is like, who knows what it's like to try to have a career in Hollywood around the time that they were having a career in Hollywood. And so what I want to say is all three of them, their success is like a really big deal. It's like a really big deal because this is before social media where anyone can become, which is true. And there's no gatekeeping in social media, in my opinion, right? So I'm thinking of, there's like the YouTuber, I think her name's Lily Singh, but like I think she's funny. She became super popular on YouTube, you know? So it's like, with the internet, with like TikTok, that kind of thing, there's no gatekeepers. But in Hollywood, I think there's sort of, with network television, blah, 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 there's sort of gatekeepers. So the fact that all three of them are so successful, that's like a really big deal. And it's just like, who knows like what they've seen, what they had to deal with, that kind of thing, because they came up in kind of like old school Hollywood. So I don't know, I respect them. I respect them that, and then yeah, I respect them. That's all I'm saying. Okay, so with that, what I want to say is like, some of my favorite YouTubers are Black commentary YouTubers, you know, and I grew up small town Virginia where I went to a high school that's like 48% Black, African American, so I guess I have an interest in Black culture, or I want to be an ally, that kind of thing, so or I grew up around Black culture, but with that, so some of my favorite YouTubers are Black YouTubers, and so one YouTuber, like, he found a Vanity Fair magazine cover with Chris Rock, and like this came out in the 1990s, so it doesn't look right. So basically, but I'm not blaming Chris Rock. So like Chris Rock, he's like wearing like this kind of old school like Southern outfit, and then and he's dressed like a clown, and then they have clown makeup on him, and then he's making like this like weird face, and like I'm not mad at Chris Rock at all, but I am judging Vanity Fair a little bit on that magazine cover, because if you look at it, it doesn't look right, and so I would yeah. So, but I'll link to the YouTube video where the YouTuber, he pointed it out. He was like, he's the one who brought it to my attention, you know, as someone who just watches YouTube. I was like, yeah, that doesn't look right. And basically it does look like low-key, like a little racist. So it's just like, you know, Chris Rock is a comedic genius. So it's like, why did they have him? Why was that the cover? You know, especially because Chris Rock is very stylish, and he is very stylish. And he looked really stylish in Selective Outrage. So I don't know if he picks out his clothes, if he has like a stylist, but and I think Chris Rock's outfits in his comedy specials, they're just as iconic as the comedy specials, right? So I think he's a stylish guy, so why not have him on the cover of Vanity Fair, like looking stylish, you know? And anyway, but the cover didn't look right. I was like, yeah, that looks low-key a little racist. And then, like I said, I'm not judging Chris Rock. I'm judging Vanity Fair a little bit. And I don't know how those decisions are made. You know what I mean? I don't know how those decisions are made. So, like I said, I'm not judging Chris Rock as much as I'm judging Vanity Fair, because now that we all have social media, there's no gatekeepers on social media. Like, anyone can post on YouTube, right? But when Jada and Will and Chris were coming up in Hollywood, my understanding is there is more gatekeeping in Hollywood, which makes sense, right? And there wasn't even streaming. It was just network television and some like cable channels, right? So I don't know. They came up in a different era than what we have right now. So I respect all three of them, you know, and like I said, who knows what they've been through. But the first thing I'm going to say is, like, I really do respect Chris Rock. Okay, the second thing I want to say is that when it comes to the Oscars, I think he did the right thing. So I remember watching it in real time when Will slapped him. And I want to say, like, it was so bizarre. I remember watching it and I was like, it was confusing. I was like, what? Did that just happen? And I went on my phone. Like, I was in shock. I was like, what? And then I was like, did that just happen? And then someone posted it on Twitter, like, it did happen. So it's just so shocking for most people. And we all just came out of a global pandemic. So we were like, is that a thing that just happened? So here's the thing. In some ways, like, it's all kind of, here's what I want to say, like, the hoopla of Hollywood it's a little silly, or it's, you know, hey, I'm lucky. If I get a career in Hollywood, I'm lucky. And I don't know anybody in Hollywood, so I feel okay saying this, but it's like, there's an aspect to Hollywood that it's especially after the global pandemic, it's like, it's all bullshit. Like, none of it matters. And that's me being cynical, but it's like, whatever. So, and then it's coming out like, whatever. So on one hand, it's like, hey, who cares? Like, whatever. But on the other hand, what I want to say is like, that's like the Oscars. That's like, if we're taking Hollywood seriously, that's like the creme de la creme. I don't know. I don't even know what that saying means, but like, that's the top, the tippity top of like, whatever, as far as like Hollywood, right? So like, I guess what I want to say is, hey, I'm not a man, and I know there's like a lot of pressure to be like masculine and manly, but I do want to say this is like, I can't fight at work. Like, if I get, so the Oscars is a work event, you know what I mean? Like, they're at work. So it's sort of like a party, but really it's a work event. So everyone's showing up to a really fancy work event. And so with that, like, if I'm at work and someone like hits me, okay, God forbid, you know, yeah, I could defend myself or whatever, but I can't straight up start fighting somebody at work. Like, I'll get fired. So even in self-defense. So the thing about Chris Rock, like, what's he gonna do? He's gonna start sprawling somebody at the Oscars. Like, that's like all his potential employers are in that room who could hire him. Like, Netflix is there and that kind of thing. So he can't just sit there and like start duking it out at the Oscars, right? So I think he did the right thing. It's not like Will Smith slapped him at a bar or like whatever. Like, that's what was so shocking for everybody. It's just like, yeah, it was just shocking. But I already talked about how I do empathize. I'll talk about why I get it. Like, I get why Will felt he had to do it, and I'll get to that. Okay, but I think Chris Rock did the right thing. And like, you know, and it's also like, what's he gonna do? He's gonna sit there and sprawl and fight at the Oscars? Like, I don't know. Like, I think he did the right thing. I'm not a man. I don't have the pressure of like proving my masculinity. So like, I don't know what that's like, but it's just like, I think Chris Rock was in shock. We were all in shock. And then he literally said, Will Smith just slapped the shit out of me. And I think he was still like processing it. So it was just so bizarre. But it kind of like, we were all coming out of the global pandemic. So it was like, I don't know. So I think Chris Rock did the right thing. And it's like, he can't just fight somebody at like the Oscars. And I want to say, we can all say like, sure, there are aspects to Hollywood where it's all bullshit. Like, who cares? Especially after the global pandemic, like, who fucking cares? But, you know, it's easy for us, for me, like, whatever. It's easy for us to say, well, I would have fought him and la la la. But you don't know. So I went to LA in December and I went to LA in January. And it's like, hey, you know, sure, on one hand, it's kind of all bullshit and who cares? And the only thing that matters is love and kindness and that kind of thing. But on the other hand, like, let's say for some reason I went to the Oscars, I'm sure I'm gonna feel quite humbled by those circumstances. Like, holy shit, it's the Oscars, you know? So I'm sure there's a part of me who'd be like, that would be like, oh fuck, like, I can't believe I'm at the Oscars, whoa. So I would be on my best behavior. So I don't know, like, am I gonna fight somebody at the Oscars? Like, nah, like, it's the Oscars. So I think Chris Rock did the right thing. Like, what was he gonna do? So I think he did the right thing. And I think here's where I don't like it when we put too much pressure on men to whatever. So I think he did the right thing. I think he's very masculine, whatever, like, I don't know, like, I'm a woman, and I don't know. So, but like I said, like, he did the right thing. Like, there's no way he should have hit him back. Like, not at, like, the top notch, like, all his employers were in that room. So it's just like, yeah, I think he did the right thing not hitting him back. Okay. When it comes to Selective Outrage, the special, I think also, like, Chris Rock, he had to talk about it. And the reason why he had to talk about it is because, you know, Will slapped him in front of the entire world. So yeah, he had to say something about it, because he just did. Like, I totally get it. Chris Rock had to address it. So in Selective Outrage, he does address it. Yeah, I mean, you can Google what actually happened, but here's where I get into, like, the whatever. But okay, celebrity, like, the thing is, I respect these people. Like, the only thing I want from Will and Jada and Chris is, like, really good movies, really good TV shows, like, you know, really good comedy specials. Like, I guess celebrity gossip is, I get it, like, it's interesting to hear about, but then it's like, I don't know, I don't care, you know, but you know what I'm saying? But okay, so having said that, I'll just explain the facts. But, like, Will and Jada probably have an open relationship, and I want to say something, maybe, like, and I respect them both. I live in California, and I grew up in Virginia, but I moved to California in 2005, and I knew what polyamory was within 2 weeks of living here. That's back in 2005. So open relationships are, like, a thing in California, and it's like, I'm not, that's cool. And I'm not gonna be, like, self-righteous. I know it's good for my mental health to go on dates and la la la. Dating in the Bay Area, that's a different video. But yeah, like, because it's so hard to find people who are, like, into monogamy out here. And also, it's okay if you're not into monogamy and blah blah blah. And I don't know, I don't, if I'm dating someone for fun, it doesn't need to be monogamous, that kind of thing. Like, I don't need monogamy. But to quote Joey Roberts from Pretty Woman, I want the fairy tale. Yeah, ultimately I want the fairy tale, like, you know. But, like, yeah, and it's very, I guess what I'm trying to say is it's very topsy-turvy in California. It's just, like, very topsy-turvy. Okay, so if they're maybe perhaps in an open relationship, I don't care. I don't care. Okay. But, and even Chris Rock says that. He's like, if she cheated, and that's the thing, I don't think she cheated. I think they have an open relationship, but whatever. So Chris Rock was, like, saying, like, it's not that she cheated. So basically, she perhaps cheated with, well, I mean, whatever. I don't care. I don't care, but I do feel compelled to say nice things about Chris Rock. Okay, just because last year I was Team Will Smith. Okay, but basically, like, Jada maybe cheated on, well, whatever. Okay, so Jada had an entanglement, using her words, with a rapper named August Alsina. I Googled his age. He's 30 years old, so he is an adult. But, and he seems like a nice guy. I don't know, I wish all these people the best. But she had an entanglement with August Alsina. He's very handsome, you know, so, I mean, I get, you know, whatever. So that part, the part that Chris Rock brings up, that part isn't, like, necessarily a big deal. I mean, at least to me, a random person on the internet, that's not the part that's a big deal. The part that kind of put fuel to the fire is that Jada has a show called Red Table Talk. It's actually a pretty good show. I saw an episode of Red Table Talk where they interviewed Robin, who was best friends with Whitney Houston, and she wrote a book, and I watched that episode. I thought it was really good. So I actually think Jada's really good at interviewing other people. I respect these people so much. Okay, so, but anyway, the part that's, like, I guess weird if you're being judgmental, is after the entanglement or what have you, Jada interviews Will Smith, and that interview, I don't know, it's not awesome or whatever. It's just not awesome. Like, Will looks like he's about to cry, which makes sense, you know, that's his wife. And yeah, it's the interview. I think the interview on Red Table Talk made it worse, because what Chris Rock says is, he says people cheat sometimes. It's like, yeah, especially in California, y'all, especially in California. So it's just like, if you can even call it cheating, you know what I'm saying? Because I think they have an open relationship. So like, I don't know. But the thing about it is that, yeah, Chris Rock had to explain himself. He had to address it somehow. And so he is angry that Will slapped him. The one person who's allowed to feel angry is definitely Chris Rock, because like Will should not have slapped him. And so that sucks. I wish that, you know, I wish that it hadn't have happened. I do want to say this, like, I still think that maybe Chris shouldn't have told that joke. About a year ago, around that time, I went on a date with a woman who had alopecia, and she said the joke really hurt her feelings. And so I was like, yeah, like, because it was around the time that the slap happened. She's like, it just seems like some comedians, they're just so, some of them are so mean to women. They're just so angry at women. She's like, and she was nice. She was really nice. So she's like, what did we do to them? You know? And I was like, yeah. So I want to say, like, you know, Chris, Jada, Will, like, they're all very wealthy. They're multimillionaires. So I think, like, a rich person making fun of another rich person, it's easy to be like, oh, it's just a joke. But you just have to keep in mind, like, people watching the Oscars make, like, 5 figures a year. And, like, you know, it's mean to punch down. It's mean to punch down. So a rich dude making fun of, or accidentally making fun of someone who has alopecia, that's mean, you know what I mean? So it's just like, no matter, like, Jada's gonna be okay, and she's really good at acting and that kind of thing, but just understand when you're in a public forum, I get it, like, people want to be funny. I don't know. That is to say, I still think, I guess I want to say is, I feel like he shouldn't have told the joke. But the other thing I want to say is, like I said, I really respect Chris Rock. It's just like, it does seem like he has some kind of beef with Jada, and I'm not sure why. You know what I mean? Because, like, I don't know. Oh, but he addresses it in the Selective Outrage thing. So he talks about why. He says she started it and that kind of thing. And I don't know. I respect all of them. Okay, but I just wanted to just say that I think Chris Rock in Selective Outrage, he had a right to speak his piece, because it happened in such a big way. I don't ever want to talk about it ever again. I think we collectively as a society, we don't ever need to talk about the slap ever again. Because I do respect all three of these people. I think they should still keep working. Will, Jada, you know. The other thing I wanted to say is, I just thought it was odd too, like, a grown man slapping another grown man. The way the Hollywood was like, oh my gosh, like, morally outraged. And I was like, you know, if I'm being cynical, like, since when has Hollywood been about morality? Because if you Google, like, Woody Allen or the other guy, Roman Polanski, it's like, you know, like, compared to, like, you know what I mean? Like, Will Smith and Jada and Chris Rock, they're, you know, they're pretty squeaky clean. Like, this is like, wherever. They're having drama among grown-ups. Like, this is grown-up drama, you know, is what I would say. As opposed to Woody Allen and Roman Polanski, what they did was, like, a million times worse. So it's just like the hypocrisy bothered me. And that's part of why I felt compelled to stand up for Will Smith, because it's like, and the other thing, when people say Will Smith was like, oh, he finally showed his real side, I was like, no. One of my friends was a background actor for Men in Black 3. And she made a point of saying, like, Will Smith was nice to every single human being on that set. She's like, she couldn't believe how kind and gracious he was to every person on that set. The production assistants, the background actors, etc. Like, everything you ever hear, I listened to Will's book too. Everything you ever hear about Will is like, he's a good guy, and I still think he's a really good guy and extremely talented. So he wasn't, it's just like, people have been clowning on Will Smith, like, his whole career in some ways, you know, you know, I'll get to this, but because it's hard to find people who are monogamous in California, in Northern California. And also, like, I don't explain it. Like, I don't want to act self-righteous. So, yeah, I only have, like, one celebrity crush for sure. But for the sake of this, like, video, like, you know, let's say for some reason I know Selma Hayek and she's straight and she's happily married to a French billionaire, but I don't want to act too self-righteous. Like, let's say for some reason Selma Hayek's looking for a side chick. Like, come on, there's tons of people who'd want to be Selma Hayek's side chick. Now, we all, I don't know, like, I feel like we all deserve better than to be a side chick, but I just think that I'm not going to act, like, super self-righteous because I don't feel comfortable doing that. But also, like, it's hard to find people, in my experience, who are, like, monogamous in California. It's open relationships are, like, a thing out here. And so anyway, having said that, I went on 2 dates with 2 women. Like, it's hard to explain. I went from the gay community, then, which I love the gay community, and I'm gay. And then I tried going to, like, gay affirming churches, but turns out they were kind of homophobic. I got fucked over. So I was like, all right, back to, I don't know, whatever. It's been a journey. But having said that, I've gone on, it's just tricky. Like, if you want to date and go on dates, it's tricky out here. So I went on 2 dates with 2 different women who were in open relationships. So they were already coupled up. And I was like, all right, well, let me give this a whirl. Let me see. And it was just dates. But when I went on dates with them, it's like they were nice and they were cool, that kind of thing. But I was like, basically like, oh, it's open there. And they're honest. Like, I'm in an open relationship, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, you know, whatever. Whatever. Nothing matters. Okay, if I'm being cynical. So I was like, all right, whatever. Okay, so, but like the irony is like, what I want to say about open relationships in my very limited experience is like, basically I got the vibe like, okay, I'd be the side chick basically. It's like a potato. They're not saying the word side chick, but basically I'd be a side chick. And I wasn't feeling it. And then the irony was, because they were already coupled up, the 2 women I went on dates with at different times. Like, so they were already coupled up. When I'm single, I don't have kids. I'll totally date people with kids. Like, kids are awesome. But I was just like, basically, like, I come with no baggage. Like, I'm a free agent, so to speak. But they, whatever. It was just a weird vibe. That's what I would say. But they were nice, but the vibe was not my cup of tea. So I just want to say, like, my experience of open relationships is like, it's tricky. It's tricky. So it's like, I don't know. It's tricky. That's all I'm saying. So I don't know, y'all. I'm just not judging these 3 people. I'm just not. Okay. So that's just the thing I was going to say. Yeah, open relationships in my experience can be tricky. The other thing I was going to say is, like, it's hard to be a person, so it's just hard to be a human being. And what I think is, like I said, the 3, they came up in an era in Hollywood where there's gatekeeping, as opposed to, like, now with social media, there's less gatekeeping. So I just want to say, it's like, it's hard to be a person. And so, like, I don't judge Will or Jada or Chris because they came up in entertainment when, I don't know, social media wasn't a thing yet. And I actually think there's a lot of positive things about social media. Yeah, it's just hard to be a person. So I respect all 3 of them, like, a lot. Because, like I said, who knows what they've seen or heard or la la la, like, just living in Hollywood. And then Will being, like, one of the most successful actors of all time. And I listened to his book, Will, and he's really likable in that book too. Like, and in some ways he's still very humble. So yeah, I mean, so anyway, Will slapping Chris I don't think it had a lot to do with Chris. It had a lot to do with just, I don't know, you know what I mean? Global pandemic and all this stuff. So I just think, I don't know. I think, like, Will, I don't know. So anyway, I respect all 3 of them. The third thing I wanted to say is just, like, I think, like, empathy is key. Oh, last thing I wanted to say, yeah. Yeah, I get if you're casting a movie, you're going to cast Will differently than you'd cast Chris Rock, like, if you're casting a movie. But I guess since I want to say nice things about Chris Rock, I'm pretty much a lesbian and that kind of thing, but I think Chris Rock is handsome, and so I guess what I want to say is like, if there's like comedians who are like angry at women for being like beautiful or whatever, I don't know. I just think like being a woman comes with its own shit. It just does. But having said that, since I date women and I kind of understand the dynamics of what it's like to date women, what I want to say is being a man comes with its own shit as well. And so I think empathy is key to like, hey, we all are dealing with our own shit in different kinds of ways. So, and then with Chris, Will, and Jada, like, they're also people of color, so they're dealing with what comes with that. So I think I felt empathy for Will. I feel empathy for Chris, and you know, and empathy for Jada. And I hope that, like, I respect all three of them. It's very topsy-turvy in California. And like, anyway, it just is, because yeah, I've lived out here since 2005. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to say. Like, there's this show called Freaks and Geeks, and it's a really good show, and there's this episode where there's like the nerdy guy, and they're at some party, and for some reason the cheerleaders are there, and they're playing 7 Minutes of Heaven, and the nerd and the cheerleader, they go into a closet to play 7 Minutes of Heaven, and they don't end up like making out or anything like that. They just kind of, he's like, it's cool, let's just sit in here for 7 minutes. But the nerd asks the cheerleader, he says, like, sincerely, he's like, what's it like being so beautiful? And it's a really good scene. I forget what she says, but I guess, like, I don't know, like, I'm just an indie filmmaker, but I think sometimes men wonder, what's it like to be a woman? What's it like to be like a beautiful woman? And then I think I can say this, like, sometimes, and I like being a woman, I love myself, that kind of thing. But what's it like to have, it just seems like men have so much freedom to be, I don't know. So what's it like to have all the freedom, in my opinion, that comes with being a man? So I guess sometimes men and women misunderstand each other. So there's no reason for men and women to be angry at each other, in my opinion. If we're being cynical, we're all fucked. I'm sorry. That's very cynical. We're all screwed. So life can be awful for everybody, but also life can be extraordinary for everybody. So, you know, keep the faith, everybody. We're going to be okay. But I can see where men and women misunderstand each other, like, a lot, and not understanding each other's experiences, like, a lot. So empathy is key. Let's be super empathetic towards, let's just be really empathetic towards each other's pain. Let's all be kind to each other and loving towards each other. And I highly respect Chris Rock. The reason why I'm making this is to make sure that Chris Rock understands that. I mean, not that he watches this, but I was very much Will Smith, Team Will Smith last year. But now I'm team both. I'm team Will, Jada, Chris. I'm team all of them. Okay, so let's be empathetic and kind and loving towards each other. Let's not ever talk about the slap ever again. Nothing but love to everybody. All right, I'm Julie. If you want to know more about me, you can check out all my stuff below. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.